You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Ole Miss Football Live, or Locked On Ole Miss Live. How are you doing? Welcome to Locked On Ole Miss Podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. I am your host, Steven Willis, and we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Don't forget to find a second listen as well. Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC and Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy provide other perspectives on college football, the SEC, and Ole Miss, so check it out. We were going to have Brad Logan on the show tonight. Technology kind of got us, and that kind of happens from time to time. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to talk about Ole Miss going into the top 5 in the coaches poll. That's pretty awesome. We're going to talk about Jeremy James getting a little bit injured. It sounds like he's going to miss a couple of weeks. If you ask Tyler Comas of Inside the Rebels, some early MTSU type thoughts, whether or not we're going to have Jordan Watkins back. And I'm going to introduce everybody to Roy. And everybody's going to be like, what? What are you talking about? Introducing you to Roy. It's called Roy. That's an acronym. That's Return on You. And it is a new NIL program that basically is a getting ready to start up. We're going to play the commercial, but it's set up to where you can just watch the game. And if somebody gets your fancy, like all the Ole Miss players and all the major sports will be on there. And if anybody gets your fancy, all of a sudden you can make a donation to their NIL right then and there. The minimum donation is like $10 to get in the door. You can go all the way up to $25,000, but it's $10. And what it does, it goes into an escrow account that they can claim at the end of the year. But if they transfer, they leave, you get all that money back. We'll cover that in just a little bit. That's one of the cool things. I had a conference call today talking about that and going over what it looks like. That's Roy, the NIL thing. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Ole Miss cracked the top 5 today in the coaches poll. They did not crack it in the AP poll because, surprise, surprise, everybody, Notre Dame jumped all the way up into the top 5 by the Associated Press. Everybody shocked by that? Yeah, I didn't think so. But Notre Dame going into the top 5 surprises basically nobody. Couple of chat members right now, the Scar Warrior, Hottie Toddy Loom. Remember, if you comment in the chat, we're going to take comments in the second part of the show. Be sure and put your name and your location in there as well, because I want to know where you're texting and commenting from. Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama are the top 4 in the coaches poll. Ole Miss is the 5th one. Oregon fell down 3 spots. That's the reason Ole Miss moved up, because of their game against Idaho. Notre Dame is at 7th, Penn State at 8, Michigan at 9, Missouri at 10. That is the top 10 right now in the AFCA coaches poll. That is pretty cool. All right. So Ole Miss cracked the top 5, and honestly, they belong to be in the top 5. Tomorrow's Locked On Ole Miss podcast is all about the media haters that are reversing their position now that it looks like Ole Miss is going to just go up and ascend. Whenever Ole Miss was the trendy pick to where they can look like the smartest person in the room by talking about Ole Miss, they took Ole Miss and they were happy. But once skins got on the line and it looked like Georgia, Alabama, and Texas were going to be all in the top 5, putting Ole Miss in the top 5, that makes everybody a little bit nervous. And now all of a sudden they need to try and fix that narrative so that the SEC doesn't eventually get 5 teams in the playoff. It's 7-dimensional chess that they're playing, that they're trying to play, but by influencing things and things like that, these old media members, they definitely have it in for Ole Miss. It's not even a fake thing. Jeremy James today, it sounds like Tyler Comas from Inside the Rebels reported that he broke his hand, I think in practice. He's going to be missing a few weeks. Luckily, offensive line, there's a ton of depth. We're going to talk about it. He's a really, really good player. He just is. I hate that he's going to be out, but there's players that can step up behind him. I'm not worried about the talent level dropping down at a significant amount, but Jeremy James getting injured, nobody wants to see that. His mom and dad are members of the site, and I hate that. So we'll see exactly what's up with that. And who replaces him at right guard is probably going to be Julius Buelow. And we'll see if Ole Miss runs the ball a little bit better this weekend. Now, we had a question in the chat about the running back position. Everybody's going to be freaking out about the running backs after the Furman game. And this is another thing that I cover on the show tomorrow. So if you want a little preview of what the show is going to be tomorrow, I asked the question, is this a symptom of a problem or the result of a game plan? I don't think the data points one way or another at the moment. I don't think we can judge Henry Parrish. I don't think we can judge Ulysses Bentley. I don't think we can judge the offensive line off of what happened against Furman, because there's a good chance that Ole Miss just saw that Jackson Dart could do whatever he wanted to against that secondary, and it would be foolish to run the football. Ole Miss was about 60% run in the first half. So honestly, we just don't know how that is going. We'll see exactly how that handles. Early MTSU thoughts. Their quarterback is athletic, and he is a guy that can get you if you're not careful. He can get you if you're not careful, but he's not overly good. He's like a Taylon Green, but not quite at the level of that. He is the player that people should worry about if you're into worrying about players and things like that. But Ole Miss is a 40-point favorite in this game for a reason. MTSU needed a touchdown with like 15 seconds left to beat Tennessee Tech 32-25. So we'll see about that. And the other thing that I'm interested about is this the week that Jordan Watkins comes back? I think we're going to be on the lookout for Jordan Watkins and what he can lead into the program, because we want to see all three of the wide receivers be on the field at the same time. All of the Ole Miss's weapons. Now, this isn't disparaging towards Caden Lee at all. Caden Lee is a fantastic player, and I think he has an extremely bright future. But Jordan Watkins at slot, Juice Wells at wide receiver, and Trey Harris at wide receiver, I think we all want to see that. And I think by the Kentucky game, we probably will. But as it sits right now, we're kind of in wait-and-see mode. And I think lower body injury, I think it might have been Michael Borky, I'm not sure, talked about a lower body injury for Jordan Watkins. And if you're not careful, whatever. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so that's the news tonight. We're going to take your comments after the commercial break, but I do want to tell you about Roy. And everybody's going to be like, what is Roy? Roy stands for Return on You. And basically what that is, it's an NIL program that you can use your phone. And let's say Caden Lee has a big game against Middle Tennessee, and you just want to throw him a little bit of cash, a little bit of coin, a little bit of NIL. You can do that through this. And the way it works is after the year, Caden Lee can claim that money. If Caden Lee decides to transfer out, that money gets sent back to the person who gave the money. It is a completely transparent version of NIL, and it's actually pretty cool. Here we go. This is Roy. All right, so that is Roy. It's called Return on You. It's an NIL program, as I've explained, and it is launching this week. And you are going to hear me talk about Roy quite a bit over the next few weeks through advertisements and things like that. They are not adversarial towards the Grove Collective. In fact, there's a way that the Grove Collective can work through them and their payout funds and all of that stuff. They just would have to get together and work it out. But I genuinely like the idea of if you're watching a game and Jackson Dart throws for 418 yards and a half, you can go and throw him $10. That's like doing a super chat on YouTube. So it's really cool. Everybody was really excited about the QR codes that Oklahoma State was potentially going to have on the back of their helmets. It's going to be a situation to where now everybody has that, and you can donate to football, basketball, baseball, women's basketball, all of that. And you have the control of exactly where your money goes. And if they leave your school, if they do pull a Quinshon Judkins, you get your money back. So there's safety and there's transparency because you can see exactly what each player is getting. So it's kind of cool indeed. Again, after this, after the commercial break, we are going to go to the comments, but I did want to let everybody know about Roy. That's going to be a brand that I talk about quite a bit over the near future. Like I said, it's not adversarial towards the Grove Collective, but it does give you a way to specifically pay an individual player and know exactly where your money is going. You have the transparency of seeing exactly how much that player is getting, and you have the safety of knowing that if that player hits the transfer portal, you're getting the money back. So it's a pretty cool deal. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Now, I do want to let you know when we come back, we're going to hit your comments, but I do want to let you know that, hey, Locked On Ole Miss fans, I do want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's called Ultimate Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of Ole Miss? Of course you can. That's the reason you're here, right? From recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, to overseeing training camps and scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want, when you want to play. And of course, we have a special offer for all the Locked On Ole Miss fans. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get you off to a strong start. Download the game. Go to ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. You know, you can grab a 5-hour energy shot to stay alert to watch all your favorite games this weekend. Or if you stayed up to watch that Florida State game last night, you can use it to have a little bit of an energy burst to get you through this day. 5-Hour Energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years. To give them an alert, energized feeling, you need to get through a busy, hectic day. You always know where to find 5-Hour Energy shots, right at the cash register at every convenience, drug, and grocery store just about nationwide. So stock up on money-saving multi-packs also to make sure you never run out of these delicious 5-Hour Energy shots. And, of course, you can go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5, hourenergy.com, to get some 5-Hour Energy product today. Use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all one word, to receive $20 off your order. It's only valid until September 30th on one order, and it can't be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. All right, so that's pretty cool. Let's get to the comments right now, okay? And we're just going to go through that. Remember, if you leave a comment, please put your name and your location on there so we know where you're coming from. We got Brent Cartwright from Oxford, Mississippi, says, let's go Rebels. Reed Hale, thoughts on the running backs in Yazoo City. The running backs, I think, are going to be fine. The question that I have is, was the problems that people might have from Saturday night's game a product of a personnel issue where it's a real problem, or if was it a game plan thing? I don't think we have the answer to that. I think that Ulysses Bentley looked good. Whenever you saw the burst and all that. Henry Parrish looked fine. And every time Ole Miss needed 2 yards, they got 2 yards. It's not like they went backwards. So we'll see. I think that Ole Miss needs a little bit more time to determine what this running back room looks like. And honestly, the fan base needs it as well to find out what this team is going to be doing moving forward. Says Notre Dame punched their ticket to the playoffs. You're probably right. Somebody says really tired of unwarranted Notre Dame BS, need to make them get in a conference or no playoff spot. Honestly, they can't get a bye. They have to play in the first round, no matter how good they are. They could be number one in the country. That's one thing. PTG Brandon says, hotty toddy, 41.5 points. Won't be enough. Kiffin will let Dart put up all the yards he wants to in order to be in the Heisman conversation. I honestly think you're fairly close to right there on it. After what we saw in the first half against Furman, you're pretty close to right. Do you think Howard is first out this week? No, I think the backup quarterback is Austin Simmons. And Austin Simmons meeting the media today and getting out there, I think he got known. And Austin Simmons said that he was told that he was the backup quarterback in week 3 of fall camp. So I think Austin Simmons is the backup quarterback and probably the starting quarterback next year. Jake Mitchell, I don't think anyone is freaking out. Informed fans just tend to nitpick. The running back room will be just fine. Yeah, I don't think informed fans nitpicking. I don't agree with nitpicking because there's not enough data at this point to where you can really think about it. It's like Oklahoma is completely miserable right now. They won 51-3 against Temple, but they are completely miserable because on third down, they were like 1 of 14 or something like that. I think that there is a personality of a fan, and sometimes the ones that just need to find something wrong and focus on it as opposed to focusing on the good, which we all know those types of fans. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think those are just happen to be the loudest ones at times, and the ones that are happy and content with what's going on, they're not yelling. So, yeah, it's not freaking out, so to speak, but it's just people that's the only way they know how to watch football, if that makes sense. And let's see. Pete Golding would be nuts if we don't start Pooh Paul. He was playing at another level. Yeah, but Corey Coleman played really well too. And TJ Daugherty graded out as the best linebacker on the night for Ole Miss. I think this is a problem. There's only 2 spots at linebacker. I know that people think 4-3 or 3-4, but the reality is it's a 4-2-5 or a 3-3-5. And they don't do 3-3-5 very often. So in that 4-2-5, there's only 2 spots, and TJ Daugherty is wearing the green dot. He's obviously the alpha dog. And you have Corey Coleman, who is quietly a pretty good linebacker. So Pooh Paul, who was injured for a lot of fall camp, has to work himself either past TJ Daugherty, which I do not think that's going to happen, or he's going to have to work past Corey Coleman. Or else that linebacker room is going to be fairly deep, if that makes sense. Willis says, after a performance like Saturday, it may be hard to find many coachable moments. What do you believe the point of emphasis was after the staff that had to watch the film? Bust. Defensive coverage bust. If you look at the game, if you go back and watch the game, Furman probably had between 40 and 50 yards the entire game whenever real football was completely played normally. They got 70 to 80 yards out of their offense on 3 coverage busts, and 2 runs netted about 20 yards on the last 2 plays of the game. If you eliminate those busts and you just play to the end of the game, that is the most dominant football game that possibly Ole Miss has ever played. And that is including West Tennessee teachers and 92-0. Jake Crane from Crane and Companies in the chat says, like, you guys look ready. Y'all got the SEC championship game. Don't fail me. That's pretty cool. Welcome, Jake, man. I enjoy your show, bud. Douglas Sherman says, I love that Arnett was sitting next to Pete. Yeah, those guys have different skill sets. Now, if you add Brian Brown, who is a defensive back whisperer, you have Zack Arnett, who, if you look at Jet Johnson and Bookie, whatever the other linebacker from Mississippi State last year, they were by far the 2 leading tacklers in the SEC. Zack Arnett is always good at getting the best out of his linebackers. He is from the school of thought like Jolie Dunn. Everybody remembers Jolie Dunn. He coached the Red Death defense for Ole Miss in 1992. Well, if you look at the best players that were on that defense, it was Cassius Beware. It was Dwayne Dotson. It was Abdul Jackson playing those linebacker positions in a original 3-3 stack. And Zack Arnett has kind of taken the ability to make plays for linebackers. Pete Golding, he's the defensive end guy. He's really good going all the way back to Marcus Davenport at UTSA at getting defensive end opening playmaking spots. So you add the linebackers with the defensive end, that's going to be problematic. So this is what Ole Miss did. They went out and got a ball hawk coach in Brian Brown, who has led the NCAA in turnovers and coaches the defensive back room. And it's because with the pressure that front is going to be able to get, you want some ball hawks on the back. So Trey Amos, who potentially looks like the best cornerback in a while I've seen at Ole Miss. Isaiah Hamilton, we didn't see that much out of him, but, we'll see how that develops. Key Lawrence didn't play. Lewis Moore did. Trey Washington did. This back end of the defense is very ball hawkish, and we'll see exactly how that goes whenever you go up against a quarterback that in TSU that has a little bit of game talent. So it's going to be a little bit of a test. There was a couple of really nice plays by Perkin. That guy, they got to let that guy run wild. Yes, careful though with Perkins though. You do not want to show your cards against Furman, MTSU, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern. You don't. You want to turn him loose. When you turn him loose against LSU, that's probably the first time you're going to need him to be turned loose, is probably that LSU game. And the way they ran the ball against USC, oh, yeah. Yeah. Dago Maeda, how about the deep ball from Dark? He couldn't handle the ball off better than that. I talked about that literally on the Friday before the game, talking about what a year 3 Jackson Dart's going to look like. And his worst zone on the field was the deep middle, over 20 yards in the middle of the field. He's a career 25 to 30% passer in that zone. He at least had 2 long touchdowns in that zone in this game. It was impressive. Let's see. Cunningham had to be on the sideline saying, I needed to play here. Yeah, them throwing the ball around the way they did, I think that was to get Caleb Cunningham's attention. I think they did a lot to get Caleb Cunningham's attention that night. And Peyton Laneham says, I'm more excited for this game than I was for Furman. I think we dig into the bag a little bit. Yes, but it's still going to be vanilla. It will still be vanilla. It just will. Pretty cool. So what do you think? What do you want? Okay, let me rephrase this. What do you want to see in the game versus Middle Tennessee? What do you want to see? What is important to you to see against Middle Tennessee? It can be the running backs performing. It can be Matt Jones performing. It can be all of that. What is important to you? We got about 5 minutes left in the live stream. Let's see. Reese McIntyre said they wanted to run the ball, but the guys were just too open not to take it all night. Yeah, it was one of those situations to where, like, was it a symptom or was it game plan? And if it was working the way it was working, you would be foolish not to take it, period. Dago Mega, pack your bags for LSU. Samara Gaming wants to see Bentley explode. Yes, I want to see an explosive run, I think, this week. I want to see an explosive run. PTG Brandon, he is feeling himself right now a little bit. 550 yards passing from Dart. G-Man wants offensive line cohesion and production running. Remember, once Jerquan Scott comes back, he'll end up being at center, and the offensive line could look pretty differently. DB wants to see a pick 6. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a defensive score as well. Willis wants to see consistency. Don't want to see everyone playing flat because they think they're the best. I want to see a hungry team that comes to play regardless who the opponent is. If the team that shows up against Furman, I don't think you have to worry about anything on that one. Peyton Lanham says, I'd like to hear more from Golding on the box experience, especially with Arnett up there. Yeah, the problem is nobody's going to talk to Pete Golding again until they get to a bowl game. Drew Donahue, I want to see more of Austin Simmons. Yes, we all do. That first pass that he threw to Caden Lee was fantastic. It was pretty good. I want to see Ole Miss cover and hit the over. That's what I'm talking about. Blake Jolly impose the run and then let Dart air it out. Drew Donahue is from Nashville. David Gibson, I want to see the second half start the second half again. He absolutely right. A fast start is a way to make the same thing happen against Middle Tennessee that happened against Furman. It's crazy to think that Ole Miss is a 41.5-point favorite in this game. I don't remember Ole Miss being favorited over an FBS opponent by 41.5 points in my life. I mean, a 25-point line is pretty rarefied air historically. But yeah. Justin Bailey of Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickle, 2 shutouts in a row. Justin from Pascagoula, Mississippi. Hey, those pickles are fantastic. They're spicy, but not too bitter. They are excellent and crunchy and very well made. Justin will hook you up. Look him up. The link is, I think, in the description. They're usually in the description of my videos. 38 in the backfield all night. This is JJ Pegues. Jason Boatner says another defensive shutout and more of the depth on the offense getting reps. Okay. Do you say JJ rush for 120 yards? That's David Chambers. He wants JJ Pegues to rush for 120 yards. That's pretty hilarious. That would, I think MTSU would be contractually forced to have to give up football if they give up 120 yards rushing to JJ Pegues. I'm not sure, but I think that is the way it is. Anyway, I've got to go film the preview show of week 2 for the SEC squad. That'll be on our site Thursday night, just like last week. It's a fantastic program. I'm going to get there and take my flowers for telling people that they needed to pay attention to the Vanderbilt Commodores. That's what I'm going to do. So everybody have a good time. We will see you tomorrow. Take care. Hotty toddy, everyone.